Hi guys, it's Han here. Today we are going to checking out 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander and Honda Pilot. Welcome to subscribe my car reviews channel both in English and Chinese. Thanks to my friends. Thank you for subscribing, liking, comment, sharing, and light up the bell. These two vehicles are so popular on market now. This one is a brand new Honda Pilot, which launched on the 2023 model. We had a lot of videos before about it. The other is a brand new Grand Highlander. It's the first generation model according to the family tree. We know that Highlander ranks among the top 3 in terms of sales in this market segment. But in terms of external dimensions, it is not as large as Pilot. This time, Toyota has released another bro, the Grand Highlander. When I heard that Toyota was about to release a Grand Highlander, the first vehicle rushing in my mind was the Honda Pilot. In fact, other products are not on the same level as the Toyota Grand Highlander. Including the Japan Mazda CX-90, its technical road is also completely different. Only Pilot and Grand Highlander, they both have a high degree of overlap in market segments. This time, when comparing the dimensions, the Grand Highlander finally won. In terms of wheelbase, the Grand Highlander is 2.3 inches longer than the Pilot. The overall length of the Grand Highlander is 1.5 inches longer. In terms of width, the Pilot is slightly wider. Pilot is slightly wider by 0.2 inches. In terms of height, the Pilot is also slightly higher, 0.9 inches taller. This time, Toyota has completely canceled 6-cylinder engines. Its powertrain types are relatively rich. There are 2.4 turbo gasoline engine, 2.5L hybrid, also a 2.4 turbo hybrid. The entire Pilot series currently only has one powertrain, which is a 3.5-liter V6 naturally aspirated engine coupled with a 10-speed automatic transmission. They are both derived from the front-wheel drive or four-wheel drive platform in the family. Both cars have four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive options in some trims. If we look at the parameters alone, this 2.4T engine is not weak and the torque is even stronger than that of the 3.5L V6 Pilot. In actual experience, this 2.4 turbo engine is sufficient. No matter which speed range, as long as you have demand for power, it will try its best to satisfy you in a timely manner. Compared to the 3.5 V6 engine, it's not slow, but it's not as powerful as the V6. Its strength feels like it's squeezed out. But the V6 engine, like Pilot, its acceleration may not be as fast as the 2.4T, but its output is relatively linear and you can feel its ample power. The suspension, both McPherson strut at the front and multi-link at the rear. The minimum ground clearance is 8 inches for the Grand Highlander and 7.3 inches for the regular trim of the Pilot. The Pilot's off-road trim, Trail Sport, is 8.3 inches. The regular trim of the Grand Highlander has a slightly higher minimum ground clearance. In terms of curb weight, the Grand Highlander ranges from 4,300 to 4,920 pounds. Pilot is from 4,030 to 4,685 pounds. No matter from which aspect, the Grand Highlander is heavier. When the vehicle is unladen, the Grand Highlander actually feels heavier. The Grand Highlander is relatively heavy to drive, while the Pilot is relatively light to drive. The fuel tank capacity of the Grand Highlander, both 2.5 and 2.4 turbo hybrid, are 17.17 gallons. Of the 2.4 gasoline is 17.83 gallons. Pilot's fuel tank capacity is 18.5 gallons. The Grand Highlander's fuel consumption under combined conditions is 22 to 24 mpg for the 2.4T model, according to EPA official data. Pilot can run 20 to 22 miles in 1-gallon gas. Focus on the data of gasoline, which also fully proves our previous point. Once the vehicle class and weight are constant, there is not much difference in fuel consumption between a large horse-drawn small cart and a small horse-drawn big cart. Grand Highlander's MSRP, excluding shipping, is quite confident. Not only higher than its own meritorious model Highlander, and in terms of pricing, whether it's the price of a single or the price range, both are much higher than Honda Pilot. If we follow the previous two brand levels, we use Grand Highlander's XLE comparing to Pilot's EXL. The price of Grand Highlander is still slightly higher. So the two vehicles here today, one a vehicle that I have been test driving for the past days. 2024 Grand Highlander 2.4 turbo top end of four-wheel drive. It's a pre-production of brand official. What I'm really sorry is that we couldn't find the top trim of Pilot. I only found this 2023 Pilot. Two-wheel drive touring trim. 3.5-liter V6 engine with 10-speed automatic transmission. Equipped with Honda Sensing 25550R 20 wheels, LED light units, 12-speaker Bose audio. These two vehicles all rolled off the assembly lines in their US plants. When these two cars are put together, you can see that the Grand Highlander is slightly larger, and the design of the front faces of both are in line with the latest design style of each family. Honda's Pilot inherits the family style established by CR-V, and is more like an enlarged version of CR-V. By the same logic, Grand Highlander is a bit like an enlarged version of the RAV4. Although both are Japanese brothers with different surnames or mothers, they are both designed and assembled in the United States and exclusively for the American market. The two vehicles also have a very similar design on the front. Both a chrome strip running through it in a wavy shape, but the position of the decorative strip is slightly different. Toyota's wave angle is larger and more elegant. Grand Highlander is designed not to have a high center of gravity in appearance. It designed the middle net to be relatively low. Both vehicles have individually designed fog lights and air guides. It's just that Honda's air guide design is more exaggerated. Toyota's design is more graceful. We just checked out the parameters. It was difficult to see the difference in size between the two vehicles from the front, but it is easy to see it from the side. Grand Highlander looks larger. See, from the side design, the two vehicles still have some similarities, such as their square designs. The front and passenger cabin are relatively independent in design. One reason of square design is can expand the internal space to the extreme. The other is recently the relatively square and straight design is popular in the automotive industry. So every brand is currently designing like this. Although Pilot also has a low front and high rear shape, it is not that exaggerated. You can see it on this Grand Highlander. Its low front and high rear shape is very obvious, especially the height of its rear part is quite exaggerated. To demonstrate off-road capabilities, the two vehicles are wrapped in black plastic around the bottom of their vehicles, including the edges of the wheel arches and the bottom of the body. On the Pilot, it uses more chrome decorative strips. The three windows on the side of the Grand Highlander adopt an integrated design. On the Pilot, the two front windows are clearly separated from the rear window. Only through this comparison we see it clearly. The width of the front doors of the two vehicles is not much different, but the width of the Grand Highlander's rear doors is much exaggerated. The lower edge of the four doors of both cars all covers the lower edge of the body. Quite good. I feel the opening angle of both the vehicles' front door is pretty much the same. The opening angles of the rear doors of both vehicles are large, but it can be seen that the rear doors of the Pilot have a larger opening angle. This Pilot is touring trim, which is not a top-end model, while this Grand Highlander is the top model in the family. The two front windows of this Pilot are double glazed, and the two rear ones are single glazed. The same goes for this Grand Highlander. The front two windows are double glazed and the rear two are single layer glass. For my height, there is nothing inelegant to get in or off two vehicles. No need to use any pedal device. Both vehicles use 20-inch wheels, only there are some differences in the form of the wheel. The Pilot's wheels appear simpler, while the Grand Highlander's wheels appear more complex and shiny. The size of the brake discs is not much different between the two vehicles. Grand Highlander's front disc is a 13.38-inch ventilated disc, and the rear disc is a 13.3-inch diameter ventilated disc. The Pilot's front disc is a ventilated disc with a diameter of 13.8 inches, and the rear disc is a solid disc with a diameter of 13 inches. There are some differences in the rear of the two vehicles. The Pilot's low front and high rear shape is not that exaggerated, and the rear is not that high. While this Grand Highlander, its low front and high rear shape is quite exaggerated. In addition, its chassis is relatively high, which makes the buttocks look more upturned. Some details of the two vehicles, there are still many similarities, such as they both have a small Eve-style rear wing and no door frame-style aerodynamic kits on both sides. The high-mounted brake light are both integrated into the rear wings, and the two small shark fin antennas are also similar in shape. Both vehicles use split wiper designs. The taillights of the two vehicles have different shapes. The Pilot's taillights adopt a letter C-shaped design. Check out Grand Highlander. The shape is relatively close to RAV4. Neither vehicle uses through-type taillights, but they both use a decorative board. Connected taillights from left through to right, and put its name logo in the center. It's just that the Pilot's name logo is black, while the Grand Highlander's logo is the same color as the body. The rear of both vehicles does not have a bumper protruding from the platform. Of course, this is the way it is designed in the automotive industry now. The automotive world tends to be unified. Both vehicles use a lot of black plastic below the traditional bumper. Just below the bumper of the Pilot, the design is more complex. Both vehicles have two exhaust pipes, one on each side, using a hidden design. Although the Pilot has a very exaggerated straight-out shape, it's fake and is not a real exhaust. The exhausts are hidden, the key of the Honda family. Grand Highlander, Toyota family key. Both vehicles have power tailgates. Open up the tailgate and the size advantage of the Grand Highlander can be revealed. First, due to its low front and high rear shape, the lower edge of its trunk is higher than that of the Pilot. Using the third row of seats at the same time, the trunk space of the Grand Highlander is larger than that of the Pilot. After all, its overall length is longer than that of Pilot. The lining of the tailgate panel is made of hard plastic on both vehicles and not have any lining. There are 2 speakers inside the Grand Highlander's tailgate. After the third row is folded, there is no height difference between the third row seat backs and the trunk, very flat. This makes the space very nice. There are hooks on the left and the subwoofer underneath. Each of the 4 corners has a very thick hook point. A hook on the right. There is a light below. When the cover is opened, a retractable curtain can be placed here. Below are the vehicle tools and jack. This vehicle is equipped with a compact spare tire. Open up the plastic cover and the spare tire is underneath. After the Pilot's third row is folded, the trunk also forms a flat surface and the space is very large. There is a 12V 180W charger socket on the left. This button is the same as the Acura MDX. When carrying something with both hands, press this button first, then carry the thing away. The tailgate will automatically close. A hook on each side, light on top, on the right, a subwoofer here. Pilot has spare tire too. A compact spare tire is not inside like Grand Highlander, but is undermounted. There's a storage compartment down here. Here is the vehicle tool. We've seen the Grand Highlander before, and its center console style still has a certain inheritance relationship with Highlander. Compared with the Pilot, its central screen design is not too obtrusive, which has an integrated design with the air conditioning control below. And the shape of the center console is more complicated than that of the Pilot. Because this vehicle is a top-end vehicle, its configuration is higher than the Pilot we have today. It has a heads-up display. The instrument panel is also the latest style of the Toyota family, an entire LCD screen. Divided into 3 parts, different information can be displayed on the left, middle, and right. Adjust via the keys on the left side of the steering wheel. And there are 3 sets of memories which can store 3 kinds of display information in advance, so that when using, you can switch between previously stored information without having to adjust them one by one. The steering wheel is also a common part of family, a 3-spoke form. The thickness is similar to that of the Pilot, and the leather is also very delicate. 3 and 9 o'clock are not too protruding. The stitching is very delicate. There are paddle shifters at the back. The levers on the left and right are common parts of the family. The front wiper has automatic wiper sensing function. Driver attention monitoring here. It is equipped with a rear view camera, a glasses case, but no panoramic mirror. Compared with the Touring Pilot we have today, it is a top trim model, and its screen is more advantageous. The screen size is relatively large. The software and hardware are the latest version and part of the family. It comes with JBL audio, wireless connection for iPhone CarPlay and Android connected. Panoramic view. It is a unique configuration of the top model. This is a 3D view inside, 3D view outside, reversing view with panoramic, reverse wide angle with panoramic view, 2 Type-C ports. One is for data and the other for charging. There is a storage compartment on the right, a wireless charging pad below. The storage and cup holder are relatively rough in design. Traditional shift knob, driving modes, sport mode, eco mode, sand and mud mode, rock mode, and snow mode. The cover of the center armrest box cannot be lifted up, only be slid open. It is a sliding lid. The space inside is quite large. Just that its opening is relatively small. There's also a 12-volt charger socket inside. We've seen the new Pilot interior many times recently. It also follows the new family style pioneered by Honda Civic. It's just a little improvement and update on the Pilot. No air conditioning outlets running through from left to right on it. Instead, a storage compartment was built in front of the passenger. Although its front air conditioning outlet is relatively novel, its shape and details are different from those of Civic, Accord, and CR-V. There is not too much layering on the plane above the center console, and more layering is designed below. The Pilot we have today doesn't have a heads-up display. The instrument of touring trim still uses the form of physical tables and LCD screens. The large piece of LCD screen on the left side. On the right is a physical speedometer. Of course, it's quite clever, only under certain lighting. Only can see that half of it is an LCD screen and the other half is a physical. Different information can be displayed in the middle of the tachometer, adjusted through the keys on the left side. The information displayed is relatively Honda. The display is not too complicated, but the instrument panel looks very simple and focused. The steering wheel is also a common style of the Honda, a 3-spoke form. The leather of the steering wheel is very fine, feels great in the hand, and is of moderate thickness. At 3 and 9 o'clock, the hand shape is not too protruding, which is similar to the protruding shape of the Grand Highlander, and the stitching is also more delicate. Buttons on the steering wheel are also common parts of the family. There are also paddles on the back. The levers on the left and right are also common parts of the family. It does not have an automatic wiper front, but with a rear windshield wiper, equipped with an auto-dimming rear-view mirror, a glasses case, and a panoramic mirror, which should be a more practical configuration for friends who have children sitting in the back. If this screen is compared with the top-of-the-line Grand Highlander, there is obviously no advantage. The size is not small. The software and hardware are both common parts of the Honda family. Of course, this is not the latest model of the Honda. Honda's latest model is Acura's latest system. iPhone, CarPlay, and Android connection can be connected wirelessly. It does not have a panoramic views, which is the only standard on top trim of Pilot. The reversing image has 3 views: a wide-angle reversing, a normal viewing reversing view, and a rear overlook view. The clarity is very average. The air conditioning control is in the form of 3 knobs and is not integrated with the screen above, which I think is pretty good. Also, many physical buttons and knobs. And there is an LCD screen on it. It can simply display some air conditioning information. The air conditioning is dual zone on this trim. The front 2 seats only have heating function, no ventilation function. One 12V 180-watt charger socket, one USB for data exchange, and one Type-C for charging, a storage compartment here, and a wireless charging pad underneath. The button shifting mechanism is not too common in the current new generation of Honda products. This vehicle has Sport Mode, Normal Mode, Eco Model, Snow Mode, and Trailer Mode. The cover of the armrest box is so wide. Opened, the inside is also very wide, with a large volume, but no socket inside. Now that the seat is adjusted to the lowest position, you can observe the difference in space performance between it and the Pilot through the video. In my opinion, both are perfect and have a lot of space. After the seat to the lowest, the biggest difference between it and the Pilot is that it holds my body higher. Some friends may like the feeling of sitting very high, but I really don't like it. If we simply compare the front row seating positions between the two, I would vote for Pilot. The seats are very comfortable, but I feel it would be better if the cushions were a little longer. The material is hard plastic on the top and leather on the bottom. Everything that your hands can reach is basically made of leather and decorative strips. Of course, there is still room for improvement, as we have talked about before. In storage space, there is only one storage compartment on the door panel. The storage compartment is quite large and has a large cup holder. In the middle, it has a lot of storage compartments and 2 cup holders. The center armrest box is very large, but its opening sliding cover is relatively small. In front of the passenger, it also has a storage compartment. Same with Pilot. Frankly speaking, I feel more comfortable sitting in the front row of the Pilot than in the Grand Highlander. First of all, the lowest point of its seat is lower than that of the Grand Highlander, which will not support your body higher. In this way, when driving, I can get stuck in it and drive, which is something the Grand Highlander can't give me. Friends who often watch my videos know that I prefer this sitting posture. In addition, everyone can actually see that the front row seats are thicker and softer than the Grand Highlander's first row seats without even having to sit on them. Its seat cushion length is longer than that of the Grand Highlander. It can give my legs better support. The steering wheel, everyone can see. The distance it is pulled out seems to be slightly longer. This is very friendly to guys like me who have short arms but want to drive from behind a little bit. In terms of materials, it's made of soft material on top. The following is a material of leather. Of course, there are still some hard plastics where your hands can touch them. The gear platform is also surrounded by hard plastic, which is the same as the Grand Highlander, but Grand Highlander has a slight leather decoration on it. The armrest and armrest box are integrated and relatively wide. In contrast, the Grand Highlander's central armrest box has a more novel form. As a daily drive vehicle, the storage compartments must be sufficient and large. Also, with enough cup holders, there is a cup holder on the door panel. There are storage on door is spacious. Also 2 large cup holders in the middle, a storage on the center console in front of the passenger seat. The second row has a raised effect so that the line of sight is higher in the second row. The second row seats feel, frankly, very similar to Pilot, very comfortable, just that its seat cushion length is slightly longer than that of the Pilot. Both seats are very comfortable. If you care about cushion length, you can feel Grand Highlander's cushion is longer than the Pilot's cushion. The padding material of the two vehicle seats also feels very similar and relatively comfortable. Second row of seats is in the form of two captain's seats with an armrest. There is an aisle in the middle, above which a storage compartment is built. Seat forward. To the end, slightly forward. Max back elevation angle. There is a storage compartment above the door panel of this vehicle and a storage compartment below. A storage here. The rear AC can be controlled separately, which is placed behind the front armrest box. There are two Type-C charging ports and one 120-volt, 100-watt, three-phase power socket. The central floor is basically flat with a slight bump. The bump is small. The air conditioning outlets in the second row are placed on the side. Sunshades. The sunroof curtains open to here. Sitting in the second row of the Pilot, it also has a heightening effect. The line of sight of second row is also slightly higher than that in the first row. The seats feel very similar to those of the Grand Highlander and both are quite comfortable, but the seat cushions of the Pilot are not long enough. Not as long as the Grand Highlander's second row seats. The padding material of the seat is very comfortable. Overall, the only shortcoming of the seat is that the cushion is not long enough. The floor center is very flat, almost even if there is no bulge, is consistent with Grand Highlander. The second row of Grand Highlander is a two-seater today, while this Pilot has three seats here, but the middle seat here can be removed. After removing the middle seat, it becomes two separate seats. In order to allow the middle seat to actually accommodate adults, it made the two main seats slightly narrower. In fact, even sitting in the middle is uncomfortable. I think it would be better to make the two main seats slightly wider. So just talk about the second row of seats. I vote for Grand Highlander. Seat forward. To the back, slightly forward. Max back elevation angle. When the middle seat is folded down, it becomes an armrest with two water cup holders and a storage compartment. Sunshades for second row. There are also many storage compartments on the door panels. The rear air conditioners can also be controlled individually. There are two USB charging ports below the air conditioning controls. The Pilot's second row seats are somewhat power adjustable. When you press this button or this button, it will automatically move forward. Unlike the Grand Highlander, has to be pushed forward by hand even on the top model. Now I'm sitting in the third row. As you can see, there is no problem with space. For my height, no problem with sitting in the space. Headroom. It made a groove in the roof of the shed so that my head could not reach it. Legroom. This seat is adjusted farther back, but not the farthest back position. My legs can come in and there is still some room. But the seat is very uncomfortable to sit on. Same problem. You can see that the seat cushion is not high enough or long enough. No way to support your legs well. If like this, if your legs are curled up like this, there will be no problem if you ride for a short time. But if you ride for a long time, if you were an adult riding it, it would definitely be uncomfortable, at least not very comfortable for your waist. This once again proves our previous point. In the US market, if looking for a vehicle product has good space performance both in the third row and trunk, there may be only two products suitable for you. One is the full-size American big guys, the other is the American minivans. The third row of this medium-sized SUV product may not satisfy everyone, and there are problems more or less. There is a Type-C socket on each side, cup holders, a reading light on the side, air conditioner outlet, all are okay. Frankly speaking, when this seat is adjusted to a slightly rearward position, I personally feel that the space in the third row is about the same as that of the Grand Highlander. Don't know how you feel when you watch it in the video. I feel that the space is not much different, but the common problem between these two vehicles is that cushion is not long or high enough. I'm not tall, so I'm sitting in the third row. My legs are always curled up and the cushion cannot support them well. Sitting curled up like this for a long time will definitely make your body, especially your waist, very tired. It's okay for children though. USB charging port on the left and right with cup holders, AC vents, which is quite okay. Also a reading light on it. In summary, these are the videos of Honda Pilot and Grand Highlander. Since we have already talked about the detailed driving experience of these two cars, we will not go into details today. Generally speaking, from appearance to interior, these two are the latest design styles of the family. In terms of internal space, although Toyota officially promotes how big the Grand Highlander is, I feel that the space between the two is not much different for me. It is not as exaggerated as advertised. In terms of power, one is a small displacement turbocharger, the other is a V6 self-priming. They belong to different schools. The 2.4 turbo Grand Highlander has enough power. The 3.5-liter V6 Pilot has been tested over the years and has adequate power. In the end, we have to come to the price. At present, it seems that Toyota is very confident to set the price of the Grand Highlander relatively high. The sales situation of Grand Highlander is extremely good now. But in comparison, I personally think the Pilot's price-performance ratio is slightly higher. Of course, I believe that their sales will be awesome because of the Toyota and Honda logo. There are no pitfalls in either car so far, can rest assured to buy. Again, buy what you like, don't control, don't be shy. Thank you for the above video.